that heart-shaped white around the nose. A couple of questions about impala. What age impala are ready to reproduce? It can be, with impala it's not impossible that it's within a year, but typically only in their second year. So when the impala is about a year and a half old, that it will conceive and then have its own offspring almost 2 years after birth. One of the antelopes that's very similar in the ecological niche, quite similar, but more in a desert environment. In other words, they fill the same food niche almost as impala, but they don't need water, is springbuck. Now springbuck can actually be born and have their own offspring within a year, within a 12-month period from birth to having their own offspring, which is quite phenomenal. It can happen with impala, but it's not the typical thing. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at all of them. Just look at how they carefully walk into the water. Look at the females in the foreground here especially. Obviously that pan is quite empty at the moment. And they walk in very carefully, not to make it too muddy. And then they literally stretch the neck out as well to try and get to where the water is cleanest. Now ultimately, if we put a big glass of water like this down out there and it was big enough, animals would all come and drink there because the water is clean. Just like us, they also like things that taste good. So there were a couple of questions about impala and births. Maybe if we're lucky this season we might see a birth. We're going to be out there obviously every day. And November or so when the lambing starts for the impala and also various other animals, buffalo, we might be lucky enough to see a birth live. That would be something quite special. There's another story I just suddenly thought of a buffalo calf. Over time you'll be mind blown literally by the things you'll see out here.
So I was just mind blown last night just from hearing the sounds where we heard the walnut bird just out by the laundry again, as well as later on heard a hyena and then heard the lion. So that's just amazing already. Just even hearing the sounds is great.
Yeah, no, for sure. Sorry, I'm just busy reading questions at the same time. We heard lions roaring last night in the far distance as well, and we'll certainly see some fascinating things. I'm not going to tell the story now. It was about a buffalo calf that was newborn and a whole lot of interaction afterwards with jackals and lions and other buffalo. So it's a bit of a long story. Maybe at some other stage. Again, just more lows from everyone towards Simon. Just a question there asking from Jose if I could include the new... Pete, help me out here. What does that mean? Is it the R7 name as well? Okay. Jose, certainly if it's newer names that I'm aware of, I will include them. I haven't looked into a Roberts book or at a Roberts book for probably about 6 years or 8 years. And especially with Peter around now with a bit more books and things like that, we'll certainly catch up on the newer names. But I will use whatever names I can use for the bird. And I'm trying to pick up a lot of the new ones and we'll mention them. At the same time, and this is again an encouragement, Simon, sorry, we're always learning these things, but on the drive I've been trying to play more with just getting information from you guys as well. Like, one of my favorite little pieces of information, it's a snippet that is maybe not worth anything, but a while back I just asked you guys to look into, to verify the first time that elephants had tea in Paris, and it came back as a verification of 1906, which is the date I had in mind, as an example. So if there are bird names that have newer names, like for instance the black eagle that's now the Vero's eagle, or the giant eagle owl now the Vero's eagle owl, please also feel free to send those names through on drive. I will never feel offended if whoever's directing radios and says Jose or Mark or Sally just said the new name for this bird is so and so. It would in fact be part of how we learn from each other. How many offspring do warthog have at one time? That can vary a bit. Francis is just asking. Trying to think what the most little ones I've ever seen, probably about 7, something like that. 5, 6, 7 would be a large group. 3 or 4 would be average, and typically only about half of those would make it to maturity. So within the first year or so after birth, on average half of those warthogs, I think in Sabi Sands probably 3/4 of them end up somewhere else, for lack of a better explanation of a lion in a leopard's belly. The injury on Karula's leg. Sorry, Simon, you must chip in there. I'm still trying to catch up to everything at the same time. Yeah, we're still looking at these waterbuck as well, which I'd like to talk about more. But the injury on Karula's leg that we saw the other day, it's on her left leg, just behind, sort of behind the shoulder blade. Not sure what that was from. Quite possibly a warthog. I had a look at it when we could see it the other day. It does look like quite a neat cut. So I would guess something with a very sharp tooth, like a warthog. Maybe something like a bushbuck, but it certainly had the look of a cut rather than a stab wound. So maybe from a warthog she caught. It's just nice to see more people joining us as well. Yesterday we were 20, I think the most at one stage was 25 or so. It'd be nice if we can be that many partaking in the discussion today, or maybe more. Robert 7, no, please Jose, you don't ever have to say sorry. Presumably me doing what I do, I should know exactly what it stood for. But like I said, I sometimes don't read as many of the things as I used to. You just sort of look at things in a bit of a different way eventually. What precautions we take at night? Caroline's just asking. Yeah, Simon, actually, we can quickly talk about some of those while he's sitting here. Never, ever go outside your room in the night after dark. Just stay in your room when it's dark. That is very important. We've lost... No, I'm just kidding. Not the kind of joke we want to get misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Caroline, no, when we move around camp, obviously just look around. Now in summertime, as summer comes along, the chances for things like scorpions and snakes are much higher. We can find them, as Jan once found out under the mixing desks there. So those things are around, but again, it's like anywhere else. If you just look around and pay attention, you'll be fine. Leopard and things like that, gorilla does come into camp. We haven't had lion tracks in camp. We've had hyena often enough. I've seen hyena in camp a few times. But again, it's not things that are dangerous to you. If you go, if I wouldn't pass out and fall asleep just outside you the whole night, mainly because the mosquitoes will probably bite you. But the main precautions, as with anything else in life, really, is just to use your common sense and look around, especially out here. For two reasons. One is if there is a leopard in camp, just to make sure you've seen her. But secondly, it's just nice to see her as well. You want to see it. So it's not really a danger. It's not like you're going to walk around and suddenly something's going to come and eat you. It's much more just a case of being aware of your environment. The same as your environment is aware of you. Yeah. Precautions, mosquitoes. Keep your doors closed at night so you don't have the mosquitoes biting you. Let's have a quick look. Can you make out there at all?
A little bit.
We've got someone joining us from Bulgaria as well. Very nice to hear. There's a snapshot of gorilla's injury that's available in the photo gallery again. Can't make out that name.
I don't know. It's hard to tell from out here.
What's that, Pete? Daniela, yes. Thank you for reminding me of what we're actually here for. The live wildlife.
Sometimes, us humans are wildlife. I'm sure some of you want to see more.
Not sometimes, all the time. Beautifully, Nyala just coming down here. I think still one of the prettiest antelopes. Just very deer-like, even though they always remind me of Bambi a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. It was kind of nice just watching from the control room, just looking out the window this morning. There's a bunch just right outside. So.
Yeah, no, I was actually going to mention also in this group that moves around camp quite often, you should have a look around. There's a new baby that's about, not new, but probably 10 days.
Oh, wow.
So just over a week. And it's beautiful and relaxed as well. They come right up around us here sometime. There was one other question I just want to read. It was a bit of a long one.
That one was from Emily, just trying to tell us where viewers kind of
okay,
know where
cool.
to go.
Thank you, Emily. It's a tiny little picture that I could see there. I'm just asking how we do this, and basically go onto, I was going to try to just explain it from the way it works. If you go onto wildlife.tv and you go onto social network, where there's a whole bunch of other interesting things as well, if you haven't been on there before, and then you go to chat. Is that correct, Em? Yeah, we shows. Yeah. Well, earlier as well, when I went onto it'll give you the chat under that, on the social network under We Shows. Different things going on. Pete's thing that's going to be happening again on Friday, is it, Pete? He's doing another We Learn, and then quite soon we're going to be walking around as well, but we're going to just leave that a little bit until suddenly you find yourself on foot in the bush, and I guarantee you'll be paying attention. I won't have to ask for it. It's something that just naturally happens when you're walking around in
it's definitely different from being on a vehicle to stepping off and walking.
Yeah, no, it does add a certain thrill to things.
Yeah, not to mention the animals are used to you in the vehicle, but oh wow.
Look at this water buck. Really sniffing the breeze there. You can see her lifting her nose up and really smelling something. I wonder, maybe it's, no, not quite. So maybe it's lunch from the lodge, but obviously a smell that she found interesting.